Hi everybody, this is Jim Aikin. In this video I'm going to give you a quick and very silly demonstration of how you might want to use VCV Rack 2 in a DAW, specifically in this case in FL Studio, which I happen to have. Right now we're looking at VCV Rack running as an insert. And in order to set this up, we have to do various things. So I'm going to run through it and explain it. First of all, we have 3 MIDI inputs, each of which is set to a different channel so that we can play the bass line with this voice, this synthesizer voice, and then a couple of FM operators, one going through a delay and one going through a chorus, which are playing other parts, and they're being mixed by the mixer and then sent to the audio output. The audio output will send the audio signal back to FL Studio. And up at the top, what we have here is a simple step sequencer running through a quantizer, and then the CV MIDI output, which will send MIDI notes to FL Studio that we can use. In order to set this up, we have to open up the control panel in FL Studio. You'll notice that the MIDI input port is set to 0 and the output port is set to 1. These are settings in FL Studio. Your DAW may do it differently, so you'll have to play around to figure out how to set this up. So let's go back to the instrument. And over here in the FL Studio channel rack, we have a couple of MIDI out devices, one of which is set to channel 2 and port 0, and the other of which is set to channel 3 and port 0. And each of them has its own set of notes, which you can see right there in the piano roll display. And so when I hit play, we're going to hear first, these are muted, so we're just going to hear the bass line. So let's try that. Well, you may recognize that, and as I said, it's very silly. So now I'm going to try that again, but I'll turn on the 2 other instruments, and let's see what happens. And we could listen to that all day, and if we were in a concert hall, we probably would be listening to it all day. It's a rather long piece. Now, in order to do the piano, I'm going to turn these off so that we don't have to listen to them, and we will unmute the piano channel in the mixer. This is Piano Tech 3, and it is receiving on input port 1. So there's Piano Tech. And VCV is going to send this sequence on port 1. So as you'll hear, you can interact with a sequencer player while the music is playing if you want to, or you could control voltage that from various other sources in complicated ways that I'm not going to try to explain here. But that's basically